Good afternoon. Hey, we're awake. Wasn't that dancing wonderful? That was so awesome. We should do more of it, you're right. I'm going to be dancing up here now, that's all I can handle. This session is designed to bring you up to date on the state of humanism and all of the AHA programs. We have so much going on, I really think if we let everybody talk as long as they wanted, we could probably be here all night. We are here to share, to learn, listen, participate, celebrate, and dance with joy. We are living in a world wrought with hazards and disasters of all types and predictions of doom. We are also living in a world filled with beauty, joy, scientific advancements, and an undeniable strength of the human psyche. Some think it may be time for our secular movement to declare victory and go home. After all, we've got 30% of the younger generation, and the trend seems to be going in our direction. Declaring victory may be appropriate for the atheist organizations, but we humanists are just getting started. This is our second act, and the curtain is coming up. The AHA is positioning itself for the demands of a growing non-theistic culture. We are at a point in time when the growing number of nuns are going to be left to their own devices to find usable values and ethics. As the leading values-based non-theistic organization in the country, the AHA has the opportunity to be a major player. We are going to decide where and which values get adopted by these nuns. I don't think it's enough to limit ourselves to merely helping people slip the bonds of religious dogma and God belief. We need to provide the rationally researched codes of behavior and ethics for a modern secular society. There are good examples of quite happy, humanistic, well-functioning secular cultures. Think Northern Europe, New Zealand, Australia, and even our neighbor to the far north, Canada. There are also examples of pretty unsavory behavior from countries who dumped religion and gods and chose, shall we say, a less enlightened path. Which example do we want to be? Which example do we want the United States to follow? Which country? Heads out will be each, I've lost myself completely. Sorry about that. So the point is, what is the United States going to be? We're going to let these people drop religion, then what? Do we become North Korea, or do we become Finland? Do we declare victory and adopt a laissez-faire attitude where our children and the new nuns fend for themselves, or do we step up? Do we share our humanist values with our children and the new secularists and reach out? The current opportunity makes me think of a study that was done several years ago with some elephants. The rescue group had too many elephants, and they took about a dozen of the bull elephants and they moved them to a new home. Now, there was no mention in the research of these elephants coming from bad families. There was no discussion of drug abuse. There was no discussion of marauding behavior or other delinquent acts. These were pretty well-behaved little boy elephants. There were simply too many bulls, and so they moved them to this new home. Some time passed, and these teenagers began acting up. All of a sudden, they were living the elephant version of Lord of the Flies. The young bulls were tearing up their home. They were knocking over trees, stampeding around, and brutally killing other animals. And they were just generally being awful. They had been freed from their society's controls, The solution was pretty simple. Big, mature bull elephants were introduced, and they taught the teenagers right from wrong. My question to you, is it enough for humans to drop all religions and gods, or do we need to provide some mature guidance? As my daughter Tawny said to me a few weeks ago, "Mom, I'm not an atheist." My heart fell a little. I was scared. I cringed at the thought that Gary and I had somehow let her down. We'd allowed ourselves to raise her in Colorado Springs and had somehow allowed this terrible calamity to fall on our family. But I'm an experienced mom, and I didn't let her see my panic. I pushed on, asking for clarification. "Tawny, how do you see yourself?" She replied, "I just don't like the word atheist." She said, "It's too thin. It doesn't help me know how to behave. It doesn't give me rules. It doesn't help me know right from wrong." That's why I'm a humanist, Mom. It's more full. It's complete. It meets my needs better. I want all the nuns, the young, the old, the white, the black, and all the shades of brown to have the opportunity to make the same choice. So what we are doing at the AHA, what are we going to do about this? We are restructuring the Humanist Society to provide a wide range of humanist celebrants, chaplains, counselors, and community leaders. We are working hard on a full range of humanist education, designing programming from everyone from little toddlers to our traditionally more mature members. We are designing coursework for online training and in-person classes. And we are keeping an eye on the changes in communication technology, incorporating social media, e-publishing, podcasting, along with our more traditional print outreach. At the Abignani Legal Center, we are busier than ever. The Feminist Caucus is working on a renewed push to get the Equal Rights Amendment ratified. And the Humanist Institute is making great advances. Let's, at this time, let the representatives from each of these other initiatives and programs tell you themselves. This is our time to brag, just a little.
Before we get to those other programs, my name is Jason Torpy. I'm the treasurer. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the overall health of the organization. So we've got transparency with the members, and feel free to follow up with any more details that you might need. So the AHA funds have maintained consistent levels over the past 12 months, and in many ways are improved from last year. The 2012 net loss was $64,000 versus a budgeted amount of $37,000. As a nonprofit organization, we use the donations that you provide for our support, and we continue to ask for support each year so that we can continue to do the operations that we do. And given $2 million of revenues and expenses for the year, a budget of $2 million, getting basically right on the nose of less than 1%, close to zero, that's pretty good action by the staff to keep things on par and to stay on budget. Current net income as of the end of last month is $120,000. Cash fell from $530,000 to $400,000, which is still plenty to keep us going. Liabilities have been generally consistent. Total investments, and that includes restricted and unrestricted funds with the Humanist Foundation and AHA operating funds, at the end of last year grew from $4 million to $4.7 million, and current investments are valued at $5.2 million. So we've got stronger financial health than really we've ever had in the past. The Humanist Foundation specifically has completed incorporation as a separate entity. This change provides the foundation trustees with better visibility of their own information to present to regulatory agencies and to donors. This was a major activity facilitated by longtime leaders Lyle and James Simpson. Their diligent work, along with other Trustees has left the foundation in an excellent position for long-term organizational as well as financial stability. And Mike Werner is here as the new president of the foundation to talk more about that. Continuing excellent work from last year, Development Director Maggie Ardiente has maintained top consumer ratings for AHA. The AHA maintains 4-star ratings from Charity Navigator, the Better Business Bureau 20 standards, GuideStar Valued Partner, and also is within the government's combined federal campaign. So don't take my word for it. We have a lot of independent verification of the health of the organization as well. I also conducted a 3-year review of performance against annual budgets, and over that period, revenues were 114% of budget, and expenses were 113% of budget. So this is basically right on target. We looked at what they've done for the past 3 years, and the staff is really close to budget for each year. So that shows very good operational control from Roy and his staff. As of this date, annual taxes and audit are under final review. Indications are that the audit will complete without issue probably in June for the annual audit. So we continue to ensure that we have an independent auditor each year overlooking the organization and having that done in a timely manner after the end of the year. So good news to report, I think, on all fronts. And with that, I'll pass it to Roy.
I'm Roy Speckart, Executive Director of the American Humanist Association. And you're about to hear individual reports that go over the details of all the exciting things that are happening with our programs and with our adjuncts and with our coalitions. But I will tell you this, that the state of the American Humanist Association is strong. Here's the highlighted by the numbers. In 2012, as Jason pointed out in some ways, was one of our most successful years in terms of fundraising and growth, only surpassed by the year that Lou Appignani stood at this podium and said, "Will you join me in my $1 million challenge grant for the American Humanist Association?" Which does lead me to a slight tangent in saying, if anyone out there is thinking, I would like to have a new challenge grant for the AHA and humanism, we'd be happy to chat with you about that. Well, with the NONE nuns on the rise, and with the economy doing a little better, we are ready to resume the rapid growth that we'd experienced in recent years. Our chapter and affiliate network is at an all-time high of 170 groups across the country. Our membership and supporter base is at an all-time high of 23,890. Our social media numbers are climbing so fast, it's hard to keep track of exactly how high we are. But last time I checked Facebook, it was 125,400. Someone will probably correct me that since this morning it's gone up more, but I'll let you do that if you get a chance. Our leadership in social media and our move to embrace technology has helped us keep ahead of the curve. But without the support of you all, and without solid staff, and without active volunteers of the hundreds, we wouldn't be able to do all we do. And we're doing what we do, and we're doing more, and we're doing more. In the past 12 months, we've had more legislation lobbying. We've filed more court cases. We've earned more mentions in the media. We've educated more people. We've published more articles than ever before in a similar period in our entire 70-plus year history. If you want to be part of an organization that is poised to spur the next civil rights movement for the rights and values of humanists, atheists, and free thinkers, then you're in the right room. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Werner. And I'd like to invite each and every one of you to consider the only legitimate form of humanist immortality that you can participate in. The only legitimate one is the Humanist Endowment, the Humanist Foundation. The Humanist Foundation was put together over 30 years ago, primarily by James Simpson and Lyle. And They put it together to provide ongoing funds at a time when it was very tough. In that time, the foundation stands to support the AHA on ongoing funds, but also has been there when times were rough or special needs were needed. For example, when we moved to Washington, D.C., the foundation funded most of that. Rolled the dice. It was a big gamble, but it really worked out for us. The Humanist Foundation relies upon your bequests in your wills. This year we made a slight modification, somewhat a major change though. Before the Humanist Foundation was part of the AHA, we made it, because of accounting and IRS issues, we made it a separate corporation, but entirely devoted to the AHA. Nothing really has changed other than the incorporation. But I urge all of you to consider putting the AHA in your will to the Humanist Foundation. And believe me, this is a foundation that will last. The funds we're scheduling for are to be, this gift will be in perpetuity. We want this fund to last and continually provide funds for the AHA. And you can do that. If you'd like more information, talk to me after this. This year, we started off with $3.1 million in our fund. I believe right now, with the stock market going up and down, we're at about $3.4 million. I just took over as president this year, and my personal goal is to boost that by at least $2 million in the next 2 years. I'd like each of you to consider putting the foundation in your will, and you can talk to me afterwards if you'd like to find out about it. Thank you so much.
Don't go anywhere. I tried to get out of this by pointing out the Q&A, but they wouldn't let me. Hi, I'm Amanda Knief. I'm one of your board members, and I'm going to give the legal report for Bill Burgess, who couldn't be here. He's actually working really hard back in D.C. The Legal Center has filed suit in federal court in Maryland against Carroll County Board of Commissioners to challenge their practice of opening public meetings with sectarian prayers that include explicit Christian references. We're very excited about this because the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which includes Maryland, ruled just last year that these sorts of sectarian prayers are clearly unconstitutional. We all know they're unconstitutional. The Legal Center has also filed suit in federal district court in Mississippi against Rankin County School District to challenge a high school students' recent assemblies that presented a Christian message. These were held on school grounds during school hours, and the plaintiff was forced to attend, and they weren't allowed to leave the room. She tried. So they were told that they were, in order to find hope to deal with these problems, they needed to turn to Jesus Christ, and then they were asked to pray. And I believe there's a YouTube video. The Legal Center is preparing to file suit within the next week in federal district court in Southern California to challenge the construction of a war memorial, which includes a prominent image of a soldier kneeling in prayer before a cross. The local city council approved the funding and construction of the memorial on public property last year. The Legal Center is also preparing a challenge to the constitutionality of a 40-foot cross, Christian cross, erected as a World War I memorial on land in Bladensburg, Maryland, just across the city line from D.C. AHA sent a letter late last year to the Capital City Park and Washington, D.C., asking them to remove the peace cross language and the cross, and we're currently looking for a local attorney which we can sue with. We are continuing our work in Massachusetts against the Under God in the Pledge of Allegiance case. The suit that we have there alleges that this practice violates the Equal Protection Clause, which is different than other cases which challenge the First Amendment issues. This case is going to go before the Supreme Court in Massachusetts in the fall, where they'll hear oral arguments. This is an expedited case because it has to do with constitutional issues. Our first challenge to it, we lost at the district level, but we are going forward with oral arguments, like I said, in September. We sent a letter to school officials in Fayette, Missouri, demanding that they stop weekly morning prayer sessions held by a teacher in her classroom. I only get 3 minutes. And then Roy has this cane, and he yanks me off the stage. The really great thing is you can go to the website, the AmericanHumanist.org website, and go to the Appignani Legal Center and see a lot of this information. And I'm really trying to get all of it out to you guys so you can at least know. And you can always come see me. I'll be here with my dog the entire weekend and happy to share with you and pontificate about why all this shit keeps happening. I thought you'd be worried about shit. We're live streaming. Damn it. Okay, students are encouraged to attend these sessions. We're talking about the teacher who's holding prayer before school. The announcement is made over the intercom by the principal, and we're searching for local counsel again to help us. And last but not least, we are going to submit an amicus brief to an Establishment Clause case to be heard by the Supreme Court in the fall. Should be one of the first cases they take up in October. This is being brought by our friends with Americans United. It has to do with the constitutionality of a town council's practice of opening its meetings with prayers delivered by outside clergy that are predominantly Christian. So again, I have plenty of more details if you'd like it. I apologize for going fast, but thank you very much, and please support our legal efforts. They are quite considerable.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maggie Ardiente, Director of Development and Communications for the American Humanist Association, to give the report on humanist lobbying and advocacy. With our full-time lobbyist, Matthew Bulger, the AHA's work on Capitol Hill has increased tremendously over the past year. Over 43 meetings with senators, representatives, and their staff have been held discussing the humanist perspective on a wide variety of legislation. Matthew has also joined Edwina Rogers of the Secular Coalition for America in many of these meetings. In January, the AHA delivered 540 copies of Jefferson's Bible to the newly elected members of Congress and President Obama. We also sent a letter to every member of the House of Representatives, encouraging them not to join the Congressional Prayer Caucus, because let's face it, prayer doesn't work. Instead, we asked them to join the House Science and National Lab Caucus to support increased funding in science and technology. In February, the AHA worked with Representative Rush Holt to introduce for the second time the Darwin Day Resolution, a bill to recognize February 12th as Darwin Day and support the teaching of evolution in science classrooms. This is the first resolution in Congress put forth by a free thought organization, and this year we secured 7 other co-sponsors of the bill and lots of press coverage for Darwin Day. In May, the AHA lobbied Congress again to recognize the National Day of Reason. This year, we gained support from Representative Mike Honda of California and Delegate Eleanor Norton Holmes, she's my delegate and I couldn't even say her name right, of the District of Columbia to formally recognize a Day of Reason. Over a dozen action alerts were sent to mobilize our online network of 41,000 members on issues such as the Equal Rights Amendment, the Violence Against Women Act, the Real Education for Healthy Youth Act, and bills that oppose the teaching of creationism at the state level. One of our action alerts, which applauded a New Orleans school board member for creating a policy prohibiting creationism and intelligent design in science classrooms, resulted in over 2,000 faxes sent to his office. He had to call us and tell us to stop. Finally, the AHA met with leaders at the U.S. State Department Office of International Religious Freedom to express our concern on behalf of atheist discrimination abroad. Our goal is to gain recognition for atheists, humanists, and other non-believers under religious freedom protections. As active members of the International Religious Freedom Coalition on Capitol Hill, and the only atheist humanist organization represented, we meet regularly with State Department officials and members of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, which is appointed by President Obama. And I'm pleased to report that both the U.S. Commission and the State Department issued the annual reports this past month and have for the first time included atheist discrimination cases in their report. So we're really making a difference. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Brian McGee, the Communications Associate for the AHA. A big part of what we do is social media, and we are continuing to experience high levels of growth, as you've already heard from Roy. One of the other numbers that I want to share with you is that our reach, which is the number of people that actually see anything from us on Facebook, is now consistently over 1 million people for any given 4-week period of time. And that's continuing to grow. And these numbers, this number that I'm talking about is only for our main Facebook page, not for the 6 other ones that we also maintain for our other adjuncts. We also have activity regularly on Google+, Reddit, Pinterest, YouTube, and Vimeo, as well as Tumblr, a site that we just recently added. On Twitter, we are now just shy of, or actually 12,000 followers, and that's more than double this time last year. We have maintained a score of 100 out of 100 by tweetgrader.com, which also ranked us in the top 1.3% of all Twitter accounts, which is like 13 million. We also reach the public through news stories done by traditional and online outlets. We have been cited by many of the country's major news sources, including CNN, Fox News, U.S. News and World Report, The Washington Post, Slate, Huffington Post, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, as well as stories picked up by many other outlets through UPI, AP, and Reuters as well. We also appear regularly in the outlets that cover smaller towns, as well as those online, like The Raw Story, Think Progress, Christian Post, The Blaze, and Christian News. The bloggers who have written items include of us are enormous, but we're always mentioned regularly in places like The Friendly Atheist and the Free Thought blogs. One measure of this exposure is the Google hits for American Humanist Association, which has nearly doubled from 2011 to 2012. We have now, that hits now is 30,100 if you search for it for last year. And these numbers do not include anything that were mentioned like on TV or radio, because there's no text that goes along with it to search for. The stories that have given us the most media exposure in the past year include the Kids Without God website and campaign last year, the Darwin Day resolution, our Mississippi lawsuit over a high school's Christian assemblies, which you just heard about, the National Day of Reason, our letter asking members of Congress not to join the prayer caucus, the Jefferson Bible that we gave away, which you just heard about also, the International Report on Atheist Discrimination, and the Under God Pledge of Allegiance case in Massachusetts that you just heard about from Amanda. By the way, I can update you, the Lake Elsinore case was filed this morning. So that suit was filed this morning in California. We are now also heavily involved in promoting humanist press, which you'll hear about more a little bit later. You can also see 2 of our authors that are speaking here this weekend, Nikki Stern and Louis Granados. Check them out. And finally, we produce the Humanist Hour podcast, placing it online on our own website as well as on YouTube and Vimeo. We also post regular articles from Roy Speckhard on several outlets that include the Huffington Post, the Washington Post on Faith section, and Patheos. And we also write regular letters to the editor and answer questions from the public via email and social media messages to us. Thank you.
Hi, excuse me. My name is Bob Behrman. I'm the director of the Koshar Humanist Education Center, and I'll be giving a very, very brief overview of the work of the center, particularly our publications, our resources and courses, our activities and our projects, and most importantly, our plans. We'll start with publications. I brought 3 of them along. Establishing humanist education programs for children. I believe most of the chapters, all of the chapters have received this. And the focus of this publication is on suggestions for, of course, starting a program for children. And a companion document, Establishing Humanist Education Programs for Adults, as I say, is similar. It has 6 steps for establishing programs for adults, and both of these documents have numerous background readings and curriculum resources. A newer document is called a Framework for Curriculum Development, and I believe all the chapters hopefully have this too. This outlines a structure for developing curriculum resources for preschool, elementary school, school-age children, teenagers, and adults. And this particular publication is playing a very, very important part of our work. And tomorrow at the Humanist Education session, we'll be discussing this program and this publication and the spin-off projects that have developed as a result. Another one of our publications is really in work in progress. It's called Past the Humanism, and this is a series about humanism in the world's religious traditions. I could go on if I had much more time and explain it, but it's a very, very thoughtful series being developed by Fred March, who is the former president of the Humanist Society of New Mexico. I should also mention, too, that my colleague John Shook is the editor of the essays in the philosophy of humanism. And John just announced, and some of you had heard this the other day at the meeting, that starting next year, the journal will be, Essays in Philosophy of Humanism, will be joining a journal is published by a group in England, the Equinox group. And this has been accomplished thanks to our colleague and vice president of the, not vice president, excuse me, member of the board of directors, Tony Pinn. We have, in addition to the printed resources, we have, of course, numerous online resources. It started a number of years ago with the development of what we call the curriculum resources for the lifespan, and this includes the lifespan, children, youth, adults, college-age students, in 8 categories. I won't take time to mention the categories. Many of you, I think, are familiar with the curriculum resources for the lifespan, which has been developed, morphed, I guess is the correct word, into other resources. A new edition, in fact, only about a week or two, it first appeared, is in our website. It's called Humanism Begins at Home. Humanism Begins at Home. And the subtitle of that is Activities for Parents Working with Their Children. We also have online resources based, actually, a spin-off of this document, or one similar to it, called the Humanist Education Program for Youth, and a similar companion project, publication online called the Humanist Education Program for Adults. And both of these are based on the 5 areas of expanding relationships, which Carol Wintermuth has developed, and which we'll talk about in our session tomorrow. A couple of other resources that we've developed. One is called Resources for Teaching Humanism's 4 R's. Not surprisingly, those 4 R's are reason, relationships, rights, and responsibilities. And we also have another online publication called Resources for Community Forums, which are resources, of course, for planning forums and outreach programs. And then courses. The first one I want to mention is called The Many Faces of Humanism. This is a video course developed, I mentioned before his name, and Fred March. This has 5 sections of the course, and they are: what is humanism, a brief history of humanist thought, the evolution of humanism, humanist social order, humanism and democracy, and are science and reason always the answer? I highly recommend you take a look at this course online that Fred has done such a wonderful job with. We also have 2 courses that I've developed recently. They're in the works, really. One of them is called Scoring Points for Humanism, and that's a course for teenagers, and that'll be available this fall. And then another course is called Humanism as the First Step. That's kind of a takeoff on humanism as the next step. So Humanism as the First Step is another publication that we're working on and reviewing now. And also, in terms of other courses, my colleague, I mentioned John Shook, is developing programs and plans, I should say, for programs, online courses for adults. And they'll be for college level courses. We have a major work in progress, and we'll be talking about it tomorrow at our session. It's the development of online courses, online lesson plans and learning activities. It's a work in progress, but it's coming along quite nicely. It's called Bringing Humanism Home. Bringing Humanism Home. And it's online lesson plans and activities for parents working with their children, learning together side by side. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. Other activities and projects of the Koshar Humanist Education Center, well, very briefly, the Humanist Teacher Corps. The Humanist Teacher Corps is a cadre of AHA members and others, supporters of humanism, whose roles are to develop curriculum resources and to present at learning community forums. We have currently 60 members, and we're hoping that many more of you will join us. Almost done. I'm out of time. I'll skip the Humanist Education Task Force and the 10 commitments. However, I am going to take 30 seconds more, or maybe a minute, to tell you about our plans. This is most important. In a recent issue of The Humanist, President Hale wrote about, quote, the potential of us putting larger emphasis on programming for children and youth. I would like to see, she continued, I would like to see the AHA get more involved in supporting our membership around the country and in creating programs for children and youth. We hear you, certainly. And I'd like to call on all of you to be in touch with the Koshar Humanist Education through our website, so that next year when I give this report, I have the title ready. Kids Are Us.
I'm going to talk really fast. I'm Jennifer Barty, the ever grateful editor of the Humanist magazine. Can you hear me? Thanks, Ray. So a quick show of hands. How many people here read the Humanist magazine? Good answer. Now, how many are reading it primarily in the print version? Okay, so the print version is not going anywhere. I know that a lot of readers really like to have that in hand. And I wanted to read a quick excerpt from a letter I got recently from such a reader. Hello, I love your magazine. I read it cover to cover while on the elliptical cardio exercise machine at my gym. I like that I can read any article from beginning to end by merely turning the page and not having to flip back and forth through the magazine. This is in contrast to another favored free-thinking magazine whose subscription I recently let lapse. Part of it was wanting to cut back on my expenses, but another factor was that their format involved chopping up the articles. So I do hope the Humanist magazine remains user-friendly to all of us exercise enthusiasts, etc. So you see, we can't stop printing the Humanist magazine, or you can maintain our practice of putting the articles all together, lest we jeopardize our readers' physical fitness. And I also wanted to note that the designer of the magazine, Lisa Zangerl, is here today. And I just wanted to acknowledge her fantastic work on the magazine. Thank you, Lisa. Just to note that she and I really enjoyed producing the print version. But we live in a digital age, and it's time for the Humanist Online to grow up. So I'm really excited to announce the AHA is going to launch a new website, thehumanist.com, later this year. And the idea is to create a sort of a media hub for AHA publications. Any print magazine that has an online version, the old print magazine will have an identity there, which is somewhat separate, but with some crossover. And that'll be the case with thehumanist.com. Humanist Network News, which Maggie Ardiente has been editing and doing such a great job on and producing really lively current content, will also reside there at this new site. And she and I have been talking a lot about creative ways to generate and revolve content, even daily, weekly, and so forth. Our plan is to have feature reviews and humor and regular columnists and of course news and opinion. And the idea being really to create a premier secular site. So we've hired a design team. It's sort of in the discovery phase. And I don't have too many more details other than that we will announce a launch date, like I said, that'll happen later this year. And so in the meantime, if you have any questions or comments or criticisms about the magazine as it exists now or online, please feel free to stop me at the conference or send me an email or phone call. Thank you.
humanists. I'm Sadie. I am, among other things, the grassroots coordinator at the American Humanist Association. As Roy mentioned, we have 170 local groups. This is comprised of 97 chapters and 73 affiliates, the newest of which are the Hickory Humanist Alliance in Hickory, North Carolina, the Greater Richmond Humanists in Richmond, Virginia, the Hartford Area Humanists in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. Those are chapters, and the newest affiliates are the Black Skeptics of Los Angeles in Los Angeles, California, the Central Florida Free Thought Community in Oviedo, Florida, and the Camden County Humanists in Blackwood, New Jersey. And these groups are meeting, they're hosting speakers and reading books and movies to continue their education in humanism, and they are hosting regional conferences, they are tabling and spreading the good word, and they're doing amazing service, they're having fun together, and they are building humanist communities, and Greg Epstein is going to talk more about humanist communities now.
Thanks, Sadie. They put me on this at the last minute. I appreciate it. My name is Greg Epstein. I'm the Humanist Chaplain at Harvard, and the Humanist Community Project is a project that was designed and planned by the humanist community at Harvard. But we agreed with the AHA in late last year that this would be a national initiative. It's not funded by the AHA, but nonetheless we would partner and make the findings of our research and the achievements of our project ultimately available to the AHA and the entire movement. So what is it? First, we spent the first 6 months or so after we made the agreement with the AHA achieving our two first goals for the year. The first was we needed a laboratory in Harvard Square where we could test out different community programs that are emerging through our own staff and through humanist communities and congregations even around the country and around the world. So we now are opening a 2,700 square foot community center and office space for this project. It's a storefront space in Harvard Square. We're excited about that. And the second thing is that myself, along with a Harvard scholar who's about to finish his PhD in philosophy of education, his name is James Croft, we have signed a contract with the publisher Simon & Schuster, home to Dawkins, Harris, Bertrand Russell, Ian Hersey, and others, to write a book tentatively titled right now, The Godless Congregation. And that would be a book about the emerging movement of community for the non-religious. The idea is that if we want to compete with religion in the 21st century, then we have to have a true alternative to the number one thing that religion offers people, and I mean including beliefs in supernatural things. The number one thing is connection to people in a supportive way in a community. And we are going to compete. We're going to look at 5 areas in our research of community life where we're arguing that humanist groups are developing each of these things, but they need to be integrated into one community in order to have that community be successful. That is the Sunday assembly, the Sunday gathering. It is education for both youth and adults. It is service, including interfaith service. It's political activism, and it's ceremonies, including weddings, funerals, and also holidays, all that sort. We want to have integrated communities that offer all of these things. And finally, a nice success is that when we have these successful communities, we will be considered on par with American religious communities and other meaningful communities. I got to speak about this project as one of 5 advisors to a 25-member panel called the Inclusive America Project at the Aspen Institute. It's chaired by former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. It features the heads of the Anti-Defamation League, the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, the YMCA, president of Georgetown University, etc. And so I got to tell them about the fact that communities for humanists are emerging all over the country. We're gaining in strength, and we are going to be on par with any other community in America. Thank you.
Hi, can you see me? I'm Zelda Gatuskin, and on behalf of my co-chair, Stephanie Hughes, and myself, I want to thank the AHA for your support of the Feminist Caucus. Your enthusiastic response to the Ratify the ERA campaign, spearheaded by the Feminist Caucus and led by my Humanist Society of New Mexico colleague, Dr. Sylvia Ramos, has truly made a difference. I know that AHA participation helped put the White House petition over the top. Nicknamed short form Vigorously Support the ERA, this petition reached the 25,000 signature target by deadline. It is now over 31,000 and continues to grow. Perhaps when we reach 50,000, we will elicit a White House response. New bills are in Congress now that would remove the ratification deadline, so our focus is on contacting Congress to support those bills. The Feminist Caucus has prepared an array of materials to raise awareness and spark action on the ERA, and we are just getting started. We will keep posting these online for easy access. Our passion, creativity, and articulate arguments have been noticed, and they have increased awareness of humanism and our contributions in the community as we partner with women's groups and progressive organizations locally and nationally. We had a lively and productive business meeting yesterday afternoon, at which we discussed the need to organize more local feminist caucus committees, such as we have in New Mexico. This grows local chapters, increases diversity in the AHA, and supports the work of the Feminist Caucus, which extends well beyond championing the ERA. We are striving for a chapter-based model of team leadership. Our objective goes beyond one cause or issue or another. We want to nurture leaders, empower women and men to be effective, creative, collegial organizers and activists for gender equality and social justice, and in the process, serve as emissaries for humanism locally and nationally. Time does not permit us to name all the tasks the Feminist Caucus is engaged in, or all of the members across the country who have been in touch to offer support, guidance, and hands-on assistance. But you can look for energetic engagement from the Feminist Caucus in the year to come, including our participation in this annual conference. Find our literature at the registration area and speak to me, Stephanie, or Sylvia to learn more and to share your ideas. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Kalmanson, Vice President of the American Humanist Association, and I've been tasked with chairing a committee to reboot the Humanist Society to be more in line with opportunities to grow. And this is an amazing time to be a humanist. As you've just heard from Greg Epstein, there's a groundswell of movement to try to organize ourselves into humanist communities that can really function on a higher level. We are now poised6 different kinds of humanist celebrants that you can apply to be. We have an associate celebrant, which is a sort of trial period, 90-day celebrancy to do a wedding for a friend or something like that. A regular humanist celebrant, so all of you out there who are already celebrants, your status quo is protected. You don't need to do anything. We have a senior humanist celebrant, which is an opportunity available for people who really want to make a career out of being a celebrant. There's sort of a second track to be a secular humanist leader. In this case, we have if you have a chapter or something like that that you're running, or an affiliate of the AHA, and you want to actually get support from the Humanist Society, you can do so now. And then we finally have this new category of being a humanist chaplain. And this is the service end of things, where you hold the hands of the sick and the dying and offer them comfort without proselytization. So this is new, and this is wonderful. We have new celebrant guidelines. We have a new celebrant handbook. All of this is updated on the website. We have a communications plan in place to make sure that as new developments continue, that all of you get to hear about it. We've established permanent liaisons to the Clergy Project, which has leaders from faith traditions who have discovered themselves while in the pulpit to be non-believers. And we're giving them homes. We have liaisons to the Humanist Institute to get good, solid education, maybe someday even a humanist seminary, to the Humanist Communities Project, you just heard from Greg, to the Humanist Chaplaincy Program. Within the military, there are chaplains that we are now putting in the pipeline. And we had a celebrant orientation to the new aspects. I have a 50-year vision that's drafted, and we'll hammer it out into something everyone agrees on by the end of the summer, and we're rolling forward. So thank you very much for your support.
Zelda thinks she's short. I am very pleased to announce that the Humanist Institute, after 2 years of tireless efforts by our co-dean Carol Wintermute and our associate dean John Burton, we are finally an accredited program towards a master's degree. Yay. It's a huge accomplishment. It was always our dream, and we finally accomplished it. We are so excited. The accreditation is through Saybrook University in San Francisco. They are a very similar distance learning type program as ours. So we're very excited about that. On the side, we are also expanding our Continuum of Humanist Education online site. We are ready to launch an 8 multimedia module online course on Introduction to Secular Humanistic Judaism, which was written by Adam Shalom. It's in the hopper. He's reviewing it. We're hoping we'll have it out in the next couple of weeks. We're also very excited to be partnering with the Humanist Society on doing an online celebrant training. And this will be the first ever. We have the first draft of the first section, which is on weddings, and then we will roll out a section on baby namings, memorials, and life celebrations. Next phase for our online courses is we're going to offer a section for families. I have a course on non-religious parenting that was written by Dale McGowan, and Bob and I worked on a course, as he mentioned, for teens. We're also, the last section that we're adding is a special topics section, and that's in collaboration with the Institute for Humanist Studies, which is a think tank run by Anthony Pinn, who couldn't be here. And the first course is going to be done by the senior fellow, Dr. Monica Miller, and it's going to be on humanism and hip-hop culture. So I'm very excited about that because it's on contemporary thought, something that is not out there. And beyond that, we're working with the Kochar Education Center to do the online lesson plans and some other collaborative projects to get education all out to you easily. And that's all. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Louis Granados. I try to run the Humanist Press. As you might know, we were relaunched last year as primarily a publisher of ebooks. The ebook segment of the market has been growing like crazy, like tripling every year for the last several years. And that's simply because ebooks are cheaper than printed books. They're easier to handle than printed books. You know, the last 30 or so books I've read are right here. And they have more features than printed books. So what's not to like? From a publisher standpoint, by focusing on ebooks, we're able to give voice to a lot more expression of humanist thought and ideas than we could otherwise, because they are so much cheaper to produce. A couple of people have mentioned the Jefferson Bible that we put out earlier this year. That's got a lot of press attention, that drove the Christians batty. But the surprise to me has been this burst of humanist fiction that you're going to see coming out from us in the next few months. There's all sorts of Christian fiction out there. Some would say that all Christian books are fiction, but there's a lot of books out there that are supposed to be fiction. But really the setting of trying to get by as a humanist in a religious-dominated world is a lot more interesting than what they have. So why can't we get some of our own humanist fiction out there, which is exactly what we're going to do. The next title we have coming out, Kylie's Heel, is about a woman who's so together as a humanist that she writes her own advice column in the newspaper, telling others how to live their lives, until her world comes crashing in. And she has to get by with personal disaster without a God crutch to fall back on. It's just absolutely riveting, and you can buy an advanced copy out there, but please don't start reading it until after the conference is over, because I don't want you to miss any of the sessions. And finally, I would just mention we also have a conference special book, ebook only. We've reproduced the 1860 Self-Contradictions of the Bible, which has no explanation, no lengthy anything. It's just pairs of quotes from the Bible. This one says black, this one says white. Goes on and on and on, and we add a special section to that of self-contradictions from the Quran, which does exactly the same thing. So check it out. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Edwina Rogers, and I'm the Executive Director with the Secular Coalition for America. And I've got the 10 things that humanists need to know about the SCA. And it's the SCA and not sex, not to be confused with the talk earlier in this room today. So just a little bit about the Secular Coalition for America. We are there to facilitate movement, unity, and reach. And so I've selected just 10 things that we've accomplished over the last 12 months since we were all together in New Orleans, and I want to highlight them. The first one is we've been really busy organizing our 50 state chapters. This time last year we only had 2. Now we have 50 state chapters, all at different degrees of maturity, so that's quite the accomplishment. And they'll be launching their separate websites really soon. They all have state pages on our website. We're working on training for the leadership in these chapters. We have state legislative tracking in all 50 states. We have leadership in place. We have call agendas that go out and action alerts. The second thing that the humanists should know about the Secular Coalition for America has to do with our policy summit and lobby day that we just completed in April. This was a very unique event. We had over 40 meetings in one day with legislatures and their staff. We even had a policy summit where we were addressed by, for breakfast, Congressman Nadler, for lunch, Senator Harkins. We even had a Republican high-level staffer from Ways and Means come and address us, and we had academics and allies. The third thing I want to point out is that our National Secular Leaders Update Call and Agenda, we do have a call every Thursday at noon East Coast time, only for 30 minutes. And we squeeze everything in there, and we go over what's happening in the Obama administration. We need to know about what's happening in the House and the Senate. We go over the national calendar, movement press. We talk about litigation that Bill Burgess gives a report from the American Humanist Association. We talk about all things international, federal lobbying, state activities, a student update, charity update, announcements, which always includes a weekly update on what the American Humanist Association is doing. And we go over our HEAL meetings that we have about 3 to 4 every week, of which all coalition members are invited. And the fourth thing I would like to point out is that we've been busy with HEAL briefings and HEAL meetings, and we even had a summit. We had a summit in November on religious privileging in the tax code. We had a HEAL briefing last fall that was standing room only about the secular community. We have 3 planned this fall, 1 to release our model secular guide, 1 on science education, and 1 on sex education. The fifth thing is our model secular guide for legislatures, and the whole movement is involved in this guide. We're very pleased to have that coming out in September. It's going to be about 50 pages long. It's going to cover all the issues that we care about, written by experts for legislatures. It's going to be accurate background and research and legislative language for the decision makers. We, of course, we're still busy on our scorecards. That would be number 6. It's kind of a slow year with scorecards, but if you look at the last 12 months, of course, we had scorecards for everybody in the House and the Senate. We did the presidential election scorecards. This year, we've already done them for the open seat in South Carolina, the open Senate seat, Senator Kerry's seat in Massachusetts, and we're coming out with New Jersey and Virginia scorecards because those are the only 2 states that have elections this year. Number 7, we had presence at the Democratic National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we had presence at the Republican National Convention in Tampa. We had briefings by the DNC and the RNC, and also both campaigns with our people on national calls. Number 8, we were invited in to come and meet with the chairman of the Republican National Committee and their staff after The elections did not go so well for the Republicans last fall. They wanted to find out about the non-affiliated community and what can they do to reposition themselves so that perhaps they could attract some of those voters as part of their Growth and Opportunity Project. Number 9, we're working really hard to keep everyone up to date. We have a morning read, which are clips about all the groups in the movement and other news that anybody would need to know about. We have the Secular Daily News website, which includes information about the American Humanist Association, just pulls over their feed, and all the other groups that we care about. And then we have the Secular Coalition for America weekly wrap-up. And number 10, we're right in the middle of our strategic planning on how we can do things better for next year, and that survey is out right now. And just a few things around the corner that we're going to be working on coming up in the future. We are starting an outreach initiative for women and minorities, a Protect Sex initiative, a media discrimination initiative, and we're very busy on tax issues because fundamental tax reform is the big topic in the House and the Senate this year, and our comments were included in the Ways and Means report that came out on May the 6th, and the religious perspective was not included in there at all. We've been asked by Senate Finance and House Ways and Means to do additional research for them, and we're working on training for our 50-state program and also a possible restructure of the Secular Coalition for America so that we can grow and bring more groups into the fold. Finally, last year this time we had 34 endorsing groups. Now we have 118, and our press mentions are up by 270%. And that's our report. Thank you.
I'm Fred Edwards, National Director of the United Coalition of Reason. Among the things that we've been active doing this year is organizing local coalitions around the country. We organized one in January in Atlanta, Georgia. We organized a coalition after that in February to cover the entire Gulf Coast from Pensacola, Florida, all the way to Louisiana. We've organized a coalition in Connecticut. We organized one in Corpus Christi, Texas, and Bryan College Station, Texas. Texas is big on our coalitions. We've got them all over the state now. We organized a coalition in South Dakota, and this was organized around the first ever South Dakota statewide conference. So I organized a conference in order to get the people together to organize a coalition, which is kind of the opposite of the way it's usually done. And then finally, before coming to San Diego, I was in Pasco, Richland, Kennewick, Washington State. That's in the middle of the state. If you've never heard of those places, I hadn't either, but they called me and said, we need a coalition here in the Tri-Cities. And so I went there. All right, well, then we had coalition launches. Not only did we organize coalitions, but once we get these groups cooperating, all of the local groups of various types, regardless of their branding, whether it's humanist, atheist, ethical culture, whatever, we put them together. That's what we do. All right, well, once we form these coalitions, then we launch them with a big media campaign. Well, one of our launches was in Butte County, California, the Butte County Coalition of Reason. That's in Chico, that's in Northern California. They had a little vandalism on one of their billboards, and so we got even more publicity thanks to that, and explained to the public why we are needed. And then we launched Blue Ridge Corps in the Blue Ridge area of Virginia, which happens to include Lynchburg and also Roanoke. And as a result, we had 2 of their billboards vandalized, and fortunately, the vandals did it far enough apart that we got to issue separate press releases each time and got 3 times the publicity as a result of that. Then we launched South Texas Coalition of Reason in Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi, the body of Christ. That one went through the roof in terms of publicity. We really hit a nerve down there. All right. Then, some of our local coalitions do exciting things quite on their own. And the San Diego Coalition of Reason right here in town, they formed a partnership with American atheists, and guess what they were able to get Dave Silverman to do? To present a softer message. They had a billboard that said, "Atheism, a personal relationship with reality," with a curtain opening on a natural scene. It was sweet, it was beautiful, it was idyllic, it was a positive message, and Dave Silverman went along with this because the San Diego Coalition of Reason said, we'll only do it if it can be positive. And so we're having an influence all over the movement. And then the United Coalition of Reason joined with other national organizations this year in promoting internet civility in our movement, raising funds for Hurricane Sandy victims, and protesting the lack of inclusiveness in interfaith ceremonies after the Boston Marathon bombing. And we continue to promote cooperation among local groups in communities all across the country. We have over 70 coalitions established now, and a lot of them do all sorts of local events, like they celebrate Darwin Day together, they celebrate the National Day of Reason together, and so forth. And we have new initiatives that we're launching, a series of radio ads that will promote the National United Coalition of Reason website so that people will know that's where to go to find local groups in their area of all types, and that we are going to critique discrimination against non-theists, and we are going to critique lavish religious spending on things of really no substance. They talk about how charitable they are. Well, let them take some of that money away from the lavish mansions that they have for some of their clergy and some of the lavish buildings they have that they don't really need, and put that where it's supposed to be. Thank you very much.
I think I win in the shortness category. My name is Susan Sackett. I am a board member of the American Humanist Association. Actually, I'm on the executive committee as secretary, and I wear another hat, which is a vice president of the IHEU, the International Humanist and Ethical Union. How many of you are familiar with this? Great. AHA is a very prominent member of IHEU. I am not actually representing AHA on it because that would be a conflict of interest. However, I am always looking out for AHA's interests. And we pay a considerable amount of dues in order for that to happen, too. We do get a sizable vote. I think the largest member organization, there are member organizations on all the continents except Antarctica. And AHA is, I think, second after Norway. I'm not positive, but Norway, the Norwegians and the Swedes have it all over us as far as secularism goes. But we're coming in very close. We have a large voting contingent of the member organizations. So recently they just held a General Assembly in Romania, and unfortunately I was not able to attend that, but we were represented and we had our proxy there and we were able to vote. And next year in August of 2014, there will be not only a General Assembly, but also a what they call a Congress, which is like a convention that they hold every 3 years. AHA hosted one in 2008. In 2011, there was one in Norway, and then next year in 2014. So they're every 3 years. I hope you will try to get to it. It will be very exciting to see people from all over the world who will be there. In Oxford, England. I'm sorry, I thought I said that. No, I guess not. It's in Oxford, England, which isn't that far. I mean, Romania is much further. So, and it's in August, so it should be beautiful at that time of year. Some of the projects, and I'll be very, very brief, that IHEU is involved with, and one of the things that I work with is they have 3 schools in Africa, in Uganda, and they are working to bring humanism to that area of the continent. They've also We've got other people in other parts of that continent, but there's a lot of witchcraft. I'm sure you've heard about all the horrible things that are happening. We've got the James Randi Educational Foundation, the JREF involved also to try to bring some rationality to these parts, and the humanist schools are supported through the work of IHEU, and I kind of coordinate with some of the people who are contributors towards that. They also work with the untouchables, the Dalits in India. And I think I pretty much covered and taken up all of my time here. They're nodding at me. Okay, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Jason Fry. I am the coordinator of the LGBT and now Q Humanist Council. And I don't know if you've been watching, but doesn't this look like some kind of memorial with that floating ethereal head to the side? I've been seeing Becky right there. She just came in. We're memorializing her already, you know? Secondly, I got one thing to say before we start, because this was a big item of controversy. So the Pope came out saying that Christ redeemed us all, and it's odd that the Vatican corrected him by saying that atheists are still going to hell. And as a humanist celebrant, I'm on an equal playing field level of the Pope in terms of clergy, and I want to let you guys know that you're not going to hell because it doesn't exist. And so I want to talk real quick about the LGBTQ Humanist Council, what happened over the last year. We did a major website overhaul. We added a lot of content. Last autumn, we put out a series of 7 newsletters. I'll get to that in just a second. And the AHA staff has been absolutely great by providing all sorts of wonderful news items. And they provide it on our Twitter and Facebook pages. We have 1,000 people following us on Twitter at LGBT Humanist. We have 3,000 people on Facebook. And the problem is, if you're not there, we don't grow. So we need you guys to add us on Facebook and Twitter. And that way you can know what's happening. Nationally, we're going to start a series of conference calls very soon so we can talk about what's happening around the world in terms of LGBT rights, discrimination, and how humanists can help. On top of that, we're building a national committee to talk about particular areas of interest, politics, youth and family, employment discrimination, et cetera, et cetera. And we're building some projects. And so how we want you guys to help us, and this is the last big thing I want to bring up, we're starting to encourage people that if you have a meetup account as a humanist group, you are allowed 3 particular groups that you can organize. A lot of people only use 1. But if you have an extra one available, or an extra 2, I would highly encourage you all to add LGBT Humanist Council Denver, LGBT Humanist Council New York. We have one going strong in Baltimore. They got 46 people. We have some wonderful people here from Baltimore. Thank you so much. We have 14 people on our meetup group for LGBT Humanist Council, Q Humanist Council San Diego. And the great thing we're asking you to do is promote your local events for your established humanist group so you provide humanist content for the LGBT community, and we're going to be sending you out a one-time a month discussion group in the terms of a monthly newsletter, so you can work on issues of discrimination against the LGBT community. And we want you to talk about what's happening in your local community so you can let us know. So when there's another issue of discrimination, like what happened a couple years ago in Etowah, Mississippi, where we allowed equality and the power of humanist action to flow, and we provided a second chance prom, we can do that when we know what's happening at a local level. And so I guess to finish why the LGBTQ Humanist Council is here and why all these projects are here, it stems down to changing social attitudes. Because let's face it, even if next month, when the Supreme Court comes out about marriage equality, even if the legal architecture changes, what's still going to happen is mothers are still going to cry and fathers are still going to disown their actual or perceived LGBT youth. And it's up to us to change the social attitude. And as Becky said a little while ago about how we need to provide that moral energy, Franz de Waal, in his new book, The Bonobo and the Atheist, says that secularism in society will not be a success simply with the death certificate of God. It needs the type of power, the type of progressive values, the type of compassion, the type of morals that humanists can provide. If it were strictly about God's not existence, we pretty much agree. Probably doesn't exist, we can pack up and go home. But because we have human problems in the here and now, we have to roll up our sleeves, get things done, cooperate, and make the world a better place, and celebrate human potential and make this a better world. That's what humanism's about. So let's roll up our sleeves and make this happen.
Okay, some folks said some things that might have left some questions. We have a microphone on each aisleway, and if you have a question, please make your way to it. We'll try to take you in order. We're only going to do this for about 5, and quick questions. Please, let's not have your own presentation. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Al Rodbell. I believe I heard the gentleman who is the Harvard chaplain. Is he here?
Greg?
Excuse me.
Someone has a question for you, Greg?
Yes, Greg. Good afternoon. I heard you mention, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that the program that you are working on will include belief in the supernatural. Is that correct? Did you mention? He did say. Thank you very much. Okay, you did say that. It'll be on the record. So it was this gentleman heard it.
Wait, all right. Let me clarify what
Thank you, please.
So what I said was that we are going to provide community, which is the #1 thing that religion provides for people, and that includes belief in the supernatural. In other words, community is more important as an aspect of religion than belief in the supernatural. And we have good sociological evidence to suggest that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes? Please come up to the microphone.
My name is Mario Alvarez. I belong to Atheists United in Santa Clarita and Los Angeles. Ever since I became an atheist, my main interest has been what is anybody doing anywhere in the country to more assertively push for humanism and atheism and the like, because Christians, among other things, they have all kinds of tricks. In Santa Clara, Santa Clarita, we have the Reverend Wilson, who debated Christopher Hitchens, remember? Fooled us with a symposium where he tried to say that now they had the answer. As Christians, they had the answer to atheism, and he was going to treat us like they were treating homosexuals.
Well, the good news is we don't have to convert the millions out there who don't believe as we do, because there's millions out there who do believe as we do, but we haven't reached yet. So
That's what I'm talking about.
So our
More
focus today is reaching out to those millions of folks who think like we do, are essentially humanists in values, they're good without a God, and the billboards we're doing, the advertising, the publicity that we're getting around our court cases, and all those things are helping us to reach this audience. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Go to the mic, please.
Can you address Hispanic Latino community outreach, website translation, Libro Pensadores, any efforts like that you're working on? Because I could.
We've done a little bit in that area. We're just baby steps, to be honest. But we're in the Kids Without a God website has some Spanish language translation material there, as well as Spanish language videos. And I think that's a good place to go. But really, if you want free thought-based Spanish language materials, I recommend highly the Richard Dawkins Foundation's newly released Spanish side material, which is fantastic, and they've put a lot of work into it, and that's what I recommend.
There are also a couple of children's books and some other books that have been printed both in Spanish and in English. I know Raul's, pardon me? You got it? Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, one more. Well, unless anyone else wants to talk. But I just want to say thank you for holding this conference. And you've given me a lot of optimism today about where the movement is going, especially the secular, as well as the secular coalition, of which I'm a member of. And I look forward to coming to the next one next year. And I think everybody, a round of applause for all the great work.
Okay, let your question be the last one.
Okay, I have a question for Fred Edwards. I would like to know if any of the explicitly atheist organizations have declined offers of cooperation with the Coalition of Reason.
No.
Good.
We as a movement are learning to play well with others. We're sharing our sandbox. Let's give all the folks and the staff at the AHA office that are doing this amazing work a great round of applause. Two more things before you leave the room. One, I'm not supposed to say anything at this time about this, but really, people, did you hear what's going on with so little money? If you've got anything extra in your pockets after this conference, send it to AHA. I'm sorry, Maggie, I had to do it. Okay.